This evening we have a wonderful gentleman who's made me so starstruck to have you in studio with me here. Just watching you all those years. No, I'm not flattering. All those years on TV and having you on air with us here to share your story. DJ Krowbar, welcome to 90.7 TruthFM.
Thanks so much, Moses, man. Thanks for having me over, Jump.
It's amazing to have you here. And, well, some of us have known you on TV, seen you on TV.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you should start with actually the name, because it's quite interesting.
I like it. That's a very good start.
I'd want to start with the name.
Yes.
I don't know what the story behind it is.
Oh, there is a crazy one there.
Because it's grown so far beyond your ID name.
Very true.
Like, do we have people who actually call you by your ID name?
Yes. Usually it's divided into like 4 people.
All right.
My family calls me Freddy.
All
that
right.
is my mom, my dad, my cousins, but just my family members. They call me Freddy.
Yeah.
People who are in a professional, my friends call me Karosh.
Okay.
People friends who I've had for over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Even my own wife calls me Karosh.
Mm-hmm.
People at my workplace and my students, they call me Karumba.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And anytime I visit a government office or an institution, they say Mr. Ngatia.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But Krowbar is known.
But now
far
Krowbar
beyond
is
anything.
just everyone.
So where did it start from?
Yes, everyone. So the name Krowbar comes from my second name, Karumba.
Yeah.
So the name Karumba, when it is pronounced in vernacular, it's not Karumba. It is Karoba.
All right.
Karoba. And so when I was in high school, there was this teacher who used to call my name, but he used to say it very, very quickly. He would say, Karoba, Karoba. And so my best friend then, Mr. Senga would say, this guy is calling you Krowbar. Krowbar, Krowbar. And so, and so just like that, that's how he started calling me Krowbar. He was the first guy to ever call me Krowbar. And so when I became a DJ, I was a secular DJ for 1 year.
Yeah.
I went like, this name sounds violent.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
You know, it's punchy, it's bold. Said, Krowbar it is. Then I got saved. Now the name means something completely different. It means the way a crowbar is used in the villages where I come from.
Yeah.
The forked end of a crowbar is used to break in.
Yeah.
If this studio is on fire, the fire guys will come and break this door with a crowbar. Then we will be set free.
Yeah.
So, first aspect is God set free whoever you want to set free. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
God set free whoever you want to set free. The second aspect of a crowbar, the sharp edge, is used to dig narrow holes. And so it's when someone buys a piece of property, they dig narrow holes and then they put a fence around it.
Yeah.
So it's once God has set free whoever he wants to set free, show them how to acquire freedom within boundaries.
Yeah.
Because this walk of Christ has boundaries. Yeah, we just can't do what we want to do. But we can find freedom within those boundaries.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a discipline. If you can find freedom within boundaries, that means your discipline is high.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's behind a name? Let's see. What's really behind every single name that we come up with?
So
how did somebody mispronouncing your name turn into something so deep?
Man, see, I can't place it.
Yeah.
I'll just say maybe it's not maybe, it's God's plan over my life.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's incredible just
man.
listening to that. But I'm trying to look back at our backgrounds, how our backgrounds shape us into who we eventually become.
Yes.
Unfortunately, for some of us, might not be anything meaningful.
Yeah.
For some of us, it's something so meaningful. I'm looking back, just as you mentioned your high school.
Yes.
I'd love us to track back to the very beginning.
Okay.
Now, let's put the Krowbar aside. Krowbar came in high school. So where do we start from the beginning?
This story begins at 3 a.m. at Kenyatta Hospital on a Friday, 5th of April, 1985. That's when I was born. I was born to a single mom. Her name is Margaret Wanjigo Karumba. Then my mom was a prisons officer.
Yeah.
He used to work for the government. She used to work for the government. And then I lived with my mom. And this is a story I had from my mom just the other day. I lived with my mom for about 7 months. Then one day, her dad visited her. Yeah. And then when her dad visited her, that is my grandfather, she told her dad, like, hey, do this. Stay with this boy for a few minutes. I go to work, then I come back. I just want to do something a little at work, then I come back. Then she went, but she overstayed because work is work. So when she came back, her dad said, hey, listen, why don't I go with this kid so that you can be able to work? And she said, hey, that would be too much. So long story short, after a week or two, my mom said, okay, so let me take this boy. So that's how I moved into the village. So that's how I moved into Gatondo, where I lived with my grandparents, with my grandmother and grandfather. And then I stayed with them up to around the age of 3. Now, for me to come and move back with my mom, we had an accident in the village. I'd just been washed, and I was placed on a form. And on this form, I was stuck naked, and so I was drying. The front of me was drying. And then I was told to turn around so that my back can dry. So on this big form that I was sitting, it was a bit swingy. So I started swinging on the form. Behind me was a 3-stone fire with water at the back. Whoa. What's that? So, man, crazy story is I fell into the hot boiling water that was to cook ugali that night. And so I got burned on my back. And they say I was rushed to the hospital. Apo Gatondo Hospital. It was quite an emergency. Then I was rushed here to Memorial Hospital. Memorial Hospital is owned by DOD.
Yeah, it's for defense forces.
Yes. Back then, it was for all government employees. Now it's only limited to military employees. So I was taken there for treatment. So I stayed there for a few weeks. And then from there, that's when I moved in. That's when my mom said, you're not going back. You're now coming to live with me.
Wow.
So that's how I moved in with my mom to Nairobi. And I remember the first time I walked into her house, I walked in and then I saw a bulb. And I remember asking my mom in Kikuyu, is that a moon? Because my mind couldn't fathom light from the roof because I was used to lanterns on the table. Is that making sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, so that's how I moved in with my mom. Back then, she used to live at Nairobi West Prisons, just behind Sunshine High School.
Yeah, just down there.
Yes, then Sunshine High School wasn't there. Yes, Sunshine High School just came the other day. Yeah, about, what? Is it 2006, 2008? Yeah, it's a very young school. Yeah, so stayed with my mom, went to nursery there. By then, a policeman's salary was a bit efficient. So my mom took me to a private school in Langata known as Malezi Preparatory. And I remember when I was there, I used to school with some Indians and some white kids. And that's how life began for me, education. Did education there. I did, I think, preparatory and class 1. But going to class 2, it became a bit expensive for my mother. And then that's how my mom said, hey, this is becoming too much. I have to take you to a public school. And so my mom got a transfer to go to industrial area prisons. Industrial area is just close to City Stadium. Yes, around those sides. And so when we went to industrial area, we went to Nairobi South Primary School. It's in South B. It's walking distance. It's about 3K. It's a 3K walk to and from. And so that's why I went for my primary. And so I did there class 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yes. So primary was good to me, good kids. That school was a bit different from Malezi. It was predominantly, Kenyans and Indians. Okay, we were all Kenyans either way. We are all Kenyans.
Yeah, we are all Kenyans.
We are all Kenyans.
We are all Kenyans.
I think it's... well, why did my mind think like that? Maybe it's traveling. So we were there with some Indian kids. It was very interesting, but I liked Nairobi South, and then Nairobi South was good to me. I enjoyed going to school there, and one day I had a very bad experience at Nairobi South. One day I left home without my mom praying for me.
Yeah.
And I remember, I can't remember what I had eaten that day. But I remember going home, unfortunately I pooped on myself. Yeah. And so I went home smelling bad. And I remember going home, and I remember I met my friend Victor. And I called him and I told him, hey, I can't enter the house like this. And so, man, God bless this guy. So what Victor did was, our bathrooms and toilets were not in the house. They were outside of the house. And so he went, put some water for me into the bathroom so that when I could just go straight into the bathroom. Man, God bless his soul. I just, and I don't know why that one clicked my mind right now, you know, but that was a nice gesture of kindness coming from him.
Yeah. You've ever met him since then?
Wow, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Wow. I've, the last time I met Victor, I think I was 19. And at this point, we're talking, I'm about, 10, 11 there. After that, I haven't seen him. But we've talked on phone like twice. Yes.
You ever mentioned that incident?
Yes, I have. Many times.
Yeah.
I've shared it as one of my most embarrassing moments. So someone asked me, what was the most embarrassing one? That story comes up. Yeah, that one.
But it's memorable, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. It is. And so we did that. And around that time, no. When I was in class 2, that's when my mom got saved. That's a good highlight to remember. Yes, and I remember we were Catholics then. And I was just about to finish my catechism classes and start doing sacrament. Yes, then my mom got saved. My mom got saved in a very crazy way, because I remember in a few months' time she was speaking in tongues, and the house had changed completely. The Michael Jackson posters we had all over all went down. Yeah, and so the house changed, and now all of a sudden, these other young women that were saved like her. So it was more prayers now in the house. Yes.
How did that look like for you at that age?
It was, you know, as a kid, you don't really realize what's going on. It is until you grow up, then you realize, wow, my mom was a young girl, a young lady, there in her mid-30s or early 30s with these other young women, and they are meeting together to pray.
Yeah.
That's a big deal, bro.
That's
a big deal if you ask me. And so now as an adult, I see it as a big deal. Back then it was, well, looks like these are my mom's new friends. And so we move on.
Yeah.
We adjust. And because 2 of those moms were also single moms, like my mom, so those other kids became my friend. So that is Vicky, the one I've mentioned. Her small sister Kare, and Mama Tony, and now Tony. So me, Vicky, and Tony were the same age. Yes, and so our moms were single moms, and saved and just on fire for Christ, man. And so from that time our life changed. I remember when we stopped going to mass, we started attending Crisco Church. You know, going Pentecostal is a whole new thing.
It's a whole different thing. I've had people just tell me how different it is to move from one side to the other. It's a whole bag to carry.
It is.
Because, you know, as a child, that's when your brain is developing. You know, you've already like captured a couple of things. In neuroscience, they say there's neuroplasticity. Your brain is already just picking up a couple of things. Now, to change to something else for a child, it's not as easy as it is for an adult.
I thought it was easier for kids.
Not necessarily. When you look back, you'll realize there was like a shaking mahali.
There was?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a very good observation. I never thought it as a shake-up. I thought it as more of you adjust as things come.
Well, you have no option anyway. Do you?
Very true, by the way. Very true. I had no option. Yeah. So we adjusted. My mom grew in her faith. You know, being prayed for now became standard. And that changed my life, bro.
Yeah.
Because my mom has, up to today, every time we meet, if we meet with my mom, she prays for me. She lays hands on me without fail. So from the time she got saved up to the time I left her house, without fail, she laid hands on me.
Yeah.
So I grew up. Then when I was finishing class 6, my mom got a transfer to go to Thika Prison.
Yeah.
And so we went to Thika Prison. And in Thika Prison was a whole new dynamic for me, because now I was hanging out with kids who speak Kikuyu when they're not in school. You know, it's a bit different when you used to speak in English and Swahili.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're hanging out with these peers of yours, but them when they're talking, they just speak vernacular.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bit strange when you're not used to it. You know, you feel the language barrier.
Yeah, I become an outcast kidogo.
There.
Yeah.
You kind of stand out.
Yeah.
You kind of stand out and you feel odd. Yeah, so they talk with each other in Kikuyu.
Yeah.
Then when they turn to you, they say, hey, Freddy, da 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 da. And then when they say, hey, no, and then they turn and to you, they talk to you in Swahili.
Yeah.
But to the one they have a connection,
yeah,
they go vernacular.
Yeah, so you become an outcast.
Yeah, so that was a very interesting season for me.
Yeah.
I remember growing up in Thika. Thika was very different from the city.
Yeah.
Schooling there, going to school, my uniform changing, and readjusting in school, because also in school that was also the same dilemma. It was going to school. In class, you're taught in English and Swahili, but the moment you walk outside of those doors, it's vernacular again.
Do you know what's funny?
Yes.
That's a whole traumatic experience for you.
For real?
Yeah, that's a whole traumatic experience for you. If you look at any single child,
yes,
because I've gone through that sort of transition,
yes,
but it's only when I grew up that I realized it was so traumatic for me to move around, especially when it's not you necessarily making the decisions.
Yes.
It's outside forces like your mom getting a transfer that is moving you. So you have no option. You're so used to your 2 little friends in South B, and then you have to leave them. I remember I had to cry. I cried the one time when you have to move houses, because I felt like I'm so used to these friends.
Yes.
Now I have to move to a place, language barrier, kidogo. That's a whole traumatic experience.
Do you know, I actually never cried any time we moved. I've never, but other than the language barrier, I wasn't afraid of making new friends.
Yeah.
I wasn't. And so, we lived in this place in Thika Prison. Thika Prison was nice. New community, new guys, Kikuyu.
Yeah, definitely.
And so my primary ended well, and then I went to high school. So it was a provincial school, was known as Mohoho High. And Mohoho High now, cosmopolitan, bro. Extreme ends living together.
Yeah.
So, it was like this. On one extreme end, there are people from the village. Then when they leave class, they go that Kikuyu route.
Yeah.
On the other end is Nairobi people. Then when they leave class, they go to English and Sheng.
Yeah.
Yes. and so, bro.
Yeah.
Oh my. Wow. And I've never shared this story like this from this perspective. And so when I went to high school, what stood out for me out of this was this language thing pulled me to participate in journalism. So in journalism, we would do English news on Mondays and Swahili news on Fridays. And so I said, I'm going to join this journalism club. Yeah, because this is a place where now you're accepted the way you are. But there were guys who are really good in English. There were guys who are really good. Remember, anyone who's writing any reports, no one is writing for you to read.
Yeah, definitely.
You are writing for yourself. And so that was a very interesting starting point in my life to define my future. Okay? And so I would go there and read news, sometimes in English, sometimes in Swahili. And the more I would do it, the more my confidence would go up.
Yeah.
The more my confidence would grow up and grow up. At that point, my work, I think I got saved twice in high school.
Yeah. Being part of which clique?
That's a very good question.
Yeah. Which part of
That's a
what
very
side
good
do you
question.
fall in?
Which side am I falling in?
Yeah.
I was more on the hip hop guys.
Yeah.
That that I remember. Because I was in a public high school, there were the hip hop guys and there were the reggae guys.
Yeah.
The reggae guys were the majority.
Yeah.
Majority. So even the hip hop guys ended up knowing reggae because they were the majority.
Yeah.
And so we ended up liking reggae. All of us, we just ended up liking reggae music. And so, but I leaned more on these guys who used to consume hip hop, R&B, neo soul, all this because between the ages of like 7 there up to about 14, I was a Metro FM and Capital FM kind of guy. And so those stations just played Western music.
Yeah.
And so because of that, that was heavy influence on my end. And so we get into this end, we enter into that phase of high school. And I'm in a space where I'm kind of understanding this salvation thing, but it's not making sense to me. I'm looking at my mom's salvation and I go like, it's good, mom, that you're saved. Like for real. It is good that you are saved. But at the same time, I'm like, me, I don't want your salvation. Because I'm looking at hers and I'm going, yeah, this is too adult for me. I want a much more punchy kind of salvation.
Is it influenced by high school?
And it's purely because of my environment.
Yeah.
I would see the CU guys. You see, the CU guys to me were looking very different. The other guys were looking approachable. The CU guys were always well dressed.
Yeah.
They were clean.
Yeah.
They wore ties.
Yeah.
You know, they presented themselves in a very formal way.
Which
there was no looseness in their walk.
Which looks boring to you, probably.
It was very rigid. I can't use the word boring, but it was rigid to me. I wanted something a bit light. I wanted a salvation where you can go to class without a tie. Is that making sense? Because so that you don't have to go to church. In class with a tie.
Yeah.
But all these CU guys, all of them are wearing ties.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this is not the kind of salvation I want. I want one where you can open at least one bottle. You know, be chilled out. And so that made me struggle with that. You know, and also going into CU and then bumping into these guys and then they're praying in tongues like your mom. And then I'm like, man, these guys are just like my mom. This is not for me.
You know, you're sharing this and I'm like,
what? Yes.
First of all, and this is an unpopular opinion.
All right.
I probably think some of the root causes of classism and superiority complex in our country is rooted deep in high school.
Very true.
Because
it's
so much
there.
It's rooted deeply in high school because you bring kids from Krowbar from Nairobi, Moses from a certain village in Siaya County, exposed to different things, put them together. They probably won't align together the first few years. There'll be different cliques. Krowbar will have his own clique. Nani will have his own clique. And that will run through for them till they go to university, till they go... Even the CU thing.
Wow.
Because I feel that's the whole root cause of classism. Because, the hip-hop guys look cooler. So the CU guys might look a little rigid, but the guys who are from the village might feel a little warm or safe around the CU guys. So the hip-hop guy might feel nikiingia kwa CU.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel safe for me.
Aki kona point. That is so true. Because I remember there was one of my friends in high school. His name was Onesimus. And so Onesimus was just... This is so funny. We were in Moho High School. Would just look... if you look across, there would be a valley and then a hill. Onesimus would see his home
literally from
across the fence. So I knew this guy was from the village. But Onesimus was a very interesting villager. He was one of those smart guys. And so if you need help, he's the guy to go to. Because he's brilliant. He's smart. And so out of me starting talking to Onesimus, I connected with a few other villagers. For real. Because him introduced me to his community. Because they were the Aterere guys who are now hanging. And they had their own table and they were going to eat dinner or lunch. And it was a very interesting bunch of people. They were nice guys, and they looked at us very weirdly.
Yeah.
They looked at us like we are very lost. For real, because we are lost at that point.
Yeah.
We're trying to identify with something that is so un-African. And for them, they're like, look at these lost people in Nairobi. Only for them to find themselves in Nairobi.
But again, when they find themselves in Nairobi, classism is already rooted
again, by the way, you have a point.
Years later, 20 years later.
Very true.
We've seen it in politics.
Yes.
There's a whole bunch of people who feel so-and-so are from a different class, sisi ni wa class tofauti. And you look at the root cause, it's deeply rooted in Form 1, Form 2.
Yes.
Krowbar wa South B, nani wa Machakos Town.
Very true. Ule msu wa Mombasa.
Msu wa Mombasa.
Wale like wale wakamba wa Kitui. That's how we talk.
Yeah.
But wow, you have a point. Dude, I had not even seen that, bro. Wow. Very valid one.
Yeah.
So we do high school. After high school, by the time I'm in high school, I already know what I want to do. I want to pursue music. I have 3 options. Either I do music, or radio, or accounting. And so immediately after high school, see, my parents know this guy is good in mathematics. He's going to do accounts. So after high school, back then, what they would do is they would give you a 1-year break. And so you'd finish like in November, stay for a whole year. Then in November, you check into, you start preparing to check into university the following year. Boss, I finished in November 2003. 2004, that same 03, I am forced to go and do driving. Even though we didn't have a car, my mom says, you have to do driving. So I do driving. Back then, we used to do something we used to call ICDL. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
ICDL?
It's known as International Computer Driving License. ICDL is just running how to... ati running. Unasikia sasa kiko yangu imetoka. Learning.
Muhoho. Straight from Muhoho High School.
Straight from Muhoho High School.
Yeah.
And so... that's a good one. And so at this particular point in time, there we go. And so at this particular point in time, ICDL is learning how to use Microsoft. Yes, like Word, Excel, how the OS works, settings, just basic ways. Because back then computers were not all over.
Yeah.
But it was important for you to learn to use computers.
It was a luxury back then.
Yeah. So tukafanya and stuff, and then a few months later, I bump into this school. It's I want to go there and study music production. But they say we also offer DJ. But they say one thing. They say a tagline of where that if you want to do DJing, if you want to do music production, start with DJing. The best producers in the world were first DJs. And then I say, sir. So I wasn't really excited about becoming a DJ. But I was like, if this will make me a better producer, I'll do it.
Who's your biggest influence in music by that time?
Timbaland.
The secular artist.
He's a secular producer.
Yes,
he's known as Timbaland. His name is Timothy Mosley. So I want to be like him.
What about him made you want to pursue music?
Something about Timbaland that was very interesting was he was using interesting sounds that were not common in music. He would beatbox and use that beatbox to build a beat on top. So I found that people are not doing that. We all can beatbox, but not build something on top. I remember there's a song I heard of him where he went to a children's home and recorded a baby crying at night, and then used that cry to make a beat. So his style of interpreting music was very interesting. And so that's what pulled me to Timbaland. And so I just wanted to be like him. And so when they said he was first a DJ, I said, even me, I'm going to do DJing. So be it. And then April 04, I begin my DJing classes. So my parents pay in a very nonchalant way. They're like, this boy is just going through a phase. Nothing much is going to come out of it. And so they pay. Boss, I'm telling you, in a few days, I'd fallen in love with DJing. I was like, boss, this is really, really cool. Like, really, really cool.
Yeah.
And so I was there for 2 months, and I really enjoyed, learning my DJing.
Yeah.
And the moment I finished like this, my mom was very happy. She was like, this is good. Now we can't wait for you to do your music production class. I'm like, awesome. I'm still going to do them because that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
A few months later, we wait, then the intake comes again, and then I do my music production classes.
Yeah.
But as I'm doing those classes, my mind still wants to produce, but my heart is into DJing at that point. It has really accepted that phase.
Yeah.
And so if the moment I finished my studies, I went and talked to the manager of the school, and I tell her, hey, dude, I've been the best in my class. Why don't you hook me up with an internship? And then he says, all right, I'll hook you up. And that's how I started working for Homeboys Entertainment.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was about to ask you, this is 2004.
Yes.
The whole art isn't as grown or evolved as it is right now. There's a couple of DJs in the country right now. A rate of maybe 9 to 1 for a gospel DJ to a secular DJ.
Yes.
Are you looking up to the secular guys? Because at that time, probably the rabbis are now picking up. The entertainment is now picking up.
Yes.
There's only maybe one show on TV or radio where there's a DJ.
Yes.
The machines are quite expensive at that time.
Yes.
Only a few people can afford. How do you go about it as a very young kid?
Very good question. Now, at that point, DJs were only on radio. They were not on TV.
Oh.
They were just on radio.
Yeah.
DJs going on TV came way later, like 4 or 5 years later after that. So most DJs were just on radio, and it was only on Capital FM. No other station was ready to risk having DJs over. It was too much for them. And so I'm just listening to them, knowing being on radio is so out of my ballpark. I didn't even see myself playing on radio.
Yeah.
I just wanted to play in clubs. My limited perspective was limited to clubs. And so me being a warm-up DJ there, I would just go and do clubs with homeboys when they are playing in clubs and warm up. And so I did that the whole of October, November, December. December 31st. Life-changing moment. We go for a gig. I'm told, hey, dude, this is what you're going to do. We go and set up, and after setting up, I'm wearing a Homeboys t-shirt. So once I'm done setting up, my superior says, once you're done, keep the Homeboys t-shirt. But I'm like, that t-shirt is smelling very dirty. Smelling of sweat, because I've been carrying speakers. You've been to events. Setting up events is a messy job.
Yeah,
and so I don't follow a direct order, unfortunately. Bro, 2 days later I am fired. I'm let go from that company. And it was the other day I was talking to my mom, and my mom said, there is a gig you went. And that night I just kept praying for you. Kumbe, it was that night.
That's 19 years ago.
Yeah, that was 31st it's 19 because 3. Nice, good numbers there.
Yeah.
So my mom prayed hard. Wow. She prayed hard, and she said, God, just watch over this boy. Well, I got fired 2 days later. And I remember when I was fired, I told my mom, and my mom said, go back there and thank them for the opportunity. And then I went and I saw my boss, and I told him, hey, dude, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I appreciate. I'm sorry for putting you in this situation, and I'm really, really sorry. And she actually said, don't even ask to get your job back. Just apologize. Yes. And so I apologized, owned up my mistake, and I left. And at that point, I had just started going to another church. It was known as Nairobi Lighthouse. I just started going a little bit here and there. But I was going for the wrong reasons. I was going there because I just wanted to hear good sound. A pastor played the guitar. And at that point, that church had some very many pretty girls. So I would go to church to check out some girls and go like, wow, all these girls are saved. Wow. And so
must be nice.
Must be nice. And so I remember the guy who used to take me to church.
Yeah.
Would say, all these girls are saved. Are you sure all of them follow Jesus? And would say, just talk to any one of them and find out. And at that time, I didn't have the courage to do that. And so we continue. Boss, my friend, 2 months later, I was invited for an encounter weekend. That's how I got saved. I got saved in a crazy way. I remember the pastor was there preaching about the death of Christ, and he wasn't preaching about the why. He was explaining to us how he died. And he was going into detail of what really transpired for those few hours before he died. And how he had a choice to save himself, how he had a choice to say no, how he had all the power to strike everyone there with lightning, but he chose not to.
Yeah.
Because he was given a clear instruction, and he obeyed that clear instruction to the T. Man. And then the mind-blowing thing about me getting saved was all this so that I can only believe. My mind used to see salvation as something you earn. Is that making sense?
Yeah, it
like you earn
sense.
your way.
Yeah.
Righteousness is earned. So my mind was, I thought righteousness is earned. But that guy just debunked that theory.
There's a gift now.
It says righteousness. If you try to come to God as righteousness, with your righteousness, it's like filthy rags. And that hit me very differently. I thought being good is good for God. But God isn't. God is not about us being good. God is about us being his kids and stuff. And so, and then I remember him saying, I'm putting you there so that you can only believe, and you'll be my child. The moment that concept landed, I was in tears.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe this guy went through all this hell so that I could only believe.
Can you imagine?
Only believe? That just hit very differently for me. And I said, nah, I'm gonna believe. I told God one thing: I'll believe. But this calling that you have on me, double it. I remember telling God that. Just double the portion on this music thing in your own way. And so that year I decided, that was early 2005, I decided I'm not going to DJ. I'm just going to concentrate on my work. Because I wasn't understanding this new phase.
Yeah.
I was raised up with a Christian mom, but I never saw salvation the way I was seeing it at home. It was just hitting differently now. And so I connected with this community. I started doing Bible classes, and then they were offering some school of leadership classes. And I did all leadership classes, like 11 weeks, 11 weeks, 11 weeks. So in total, those are what, 33?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's almost
It's like a whole year, man.
Yeah, almost.
Whole year of training. And I really enjoyed those classes. Up to today, I can say 80 or 90% of my salvation is tagged on that 1 year.
How impactful was it? Especially, was it like a transitional year for you?
It was a grounding year for me. It was, this is the decision you have made. Let us ground that decision. Let that decision find good roots. That ministry operates in a very interesting perspective. Their goal was, we want to equip you in a way that you don't need the ministry anymore.
Like they want to let you go.
The goal is, we are equipping you so that you can be able to fend for yourself even when you don't have a body of Christ around you. Is that making sense?
That makes
like
sense.
Really, really ground your decision so that you cannot be swayed by things that come around you.
Yeah.
And so that element really changed how I viewed my work. They really grounded my decision. They took me through all these different classes of what the Holy Spirit is, concepts of giving, concepts of just instructions, obedience, just countless lessons that you can learn, in the Word of God. So we did all that, and after that, And it's like God was just waiting for that opportunity to end because I did not finish a month. I got a new job.
Yeah.
And that new job was at Village Market as a DJ teacher and guitar teacher.
All right.
And I remember how I got that job was very crazy, bro. I remember when the job came through, I used to live in Shauri Moyo. And so when my mentor used to live in industrial area. So I walked from Shauri to Inda, which is about a kilometer and a half, to go and ask him for bus fare to go to Village Market. Yeah. And so he said, hey, dude, I'm actually going to Ngara. You'll get some bus fare in Ngara because I don't have chums. So we walked from Inda to the city to Ngara. The guy we're going for to see in Ngara is not there. So he looks at me and then he says, bro, you're on your own, man. Yes. You know there's no shortcut to Village Market.
No.
There's not. You go the way a car goes. So I walked all the way up to Village Market. I get to Village Market and I go straight into the toilets. I close myself in the toilets. I remove my t-shirt because I am so hot. I just want my body to cool down. I wait until the toilets are empty. Then I go wash my face and armpits and neck and stuff to finish the sweat and the oil. And then I rush back into the toilet to dump myself with a tissue paper. So I dump myself. I make sure I'm really cool. I'm not so hot. And then I go for the interview. And the job came through, man.
That's your first job?
That's my first job.
Are you playing Christian music?
At that point, see, I'm saved.
How different does it feel than a year ago playing?
Remember,
something different.
This 1 year where I am being grounded, I am still DJing, but I'm DJing in church events. I'm DJing at people's wedding. I'm DJing at youth group meetings. You know, so I'm just DJing within my community with no commercial gain. Because I'm being grounded. And at that point, that church is my home. And so at home you are a son. Yes, if you wash utensils at home, it's because you live there. This is your home. Yes.
Why should we pay you anyway?
There you go. And so, and I didn't struggle with that for me. I was very okay with being a son in that ministry, and I enjoyed my time there, and I really grew. And so I entered into this space, I'm now teaching, and then I start teaching DJs. I'm still young because I'm 21, but I'm now teaching. So I teach DJing and guitar. That whole year, I met some amazing DJs during that whole year. One of the guys that I taught during that time was John Falme. Yeah, man. He was one of my students there. And some other DJs that you don't even know of. And my colleague Drew, we grow tighter. We start becoming better DJs. The more you teach, the more you become better at something. So I start growing the whole of 06. The company even grows to a place where we open another branch in the CBD. So I start teaching in the CBD one at Church House, 2nd floor. That's where the school was. It's known as Winton House of Music. And so I start teaching there, and during that phase, I meet a couple of DJs there. I meet guys like Kim Nick D and his brother DJ Mo, guys like DJ Sanj, DJ GG, the guy who's on Citizen right now. I continue, and I meet quite a number of DJs that I teach during that 207.
So you're just a teacher this time? I'm
teaching, but that's when I get my first gig.
I have a question.
Yes.
How sustainable is this business or this industry in
teaching
2006?
At that point, it was somewhat sustainable because we had a standard salary of about 10,000 shillings, and then with every student you bring, you get 2,000 on top. So the more you teach, the more money you get on top. And I'm living in Shauri Moyo, and I'm not even paying rent where I'm living in Shauri Moyo because I'm living at my cousin's place. So you see, it was sustainable for a young man who has no any other engagements other than to feed himself. And buy maybe a t-shirt or a jeans or a pair of shoes. So it was sustainable, even at that point. So, but it's not going where I want it to be. I remember I got a gig to go and DJ at a graduation in Buru Phase 1. I'll never forget this gig. I go there. That's one of my first paying gigs. I think it was my first ever paying gig. And I was paid like 2,500. But the 2 Gs was to hire the DJ equipment.
Oh.
So I only made up
500, yeah.
And that gig I got booed, bro. That was the first and only gig I've ever gotten a boo.